the work that we do, it starts with the people that work here. And so loving our neighbor begins with how we love our employees.
You're listening to the Faith and Work podcast, where we explore ways to serve God and others in our daily work to bring life and hope to workplaces and cities.
Welcome to the Faith and Work podcast. I'm Ross Chapman, your host for today, and I serve as the CEO at Denver Institute for Faith and Work. I'm very excited to welcome you back to the Voices from the Workplace series. This is going to be the second episode where we're focusing on manufacturing. So hopefully last episode you got a chance to hear from Ben Dunn and his work in manufacturing. And this time we're going to hear from another guest. This guest is a little special to Denver Institute because he was actually around in the very beginning of our history. Chris Horst was a founding board member of Denver Institute and has had an incredible career. And he had a big career change just 3 years ago or so, and he's going to share a little bit about that. The other fun thing is that Chris and I went to Taylor University together, and I just count him as a friend and learn a lot from him, and I know you will as well. And so what I want to remind you is that the Voices from the Workplace series is all about hearing from people in their everyday work in different industries, but industries that connect with your daily life or even connect with your daily work. And there's always something to learn. It's taking you inside that industry, inside a particular workplace, and asking the practical question of what does it actually mean to integrate faith and work in this space. And so we'll hope that you will listen closely and you'll gain a new imagination for how your work and your faith are intersecting. Chris Horst, welcome to the Faith and Work podcast. We are really thrilled to have you on today. Thank you for being here.
Ross, I'm pumped. This is so great. I can't wait. So grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, well, the listeners should know that we are both Taylor grads, same year. We lived in opposing men's dorms, but we found a friendship nonetheless. I mean, not like we spent a lot of time together necessarily at Taylor, but I mean, I definitely had a respect even though you were from the dorm. Yeah, no, I've been thinking about our friendship, Ross, and wondering, the listeners for the podcast should know that Ross has a really, he had a very serious career as an intramural basketball player at Taylor. That's my recollection, that he achieved a ton of success on the court. And I've been debating in my head, like, is it better to be a very high-level, successful intramural athlete or a very low-performing collegiate athlete, which is what I was? So it's like, do you want to, really do great on intramurals or really poorly on the collegiate team? And that's a question I continue to wrestle with today. That is a great question, and I can't even tell you how excited I am you said that, because that makes my Indiana roots really happy. Because since moving to Colorado, I have played basketball exactly 0 times in 3.5 years, which is really sad. Well, anyone who's got an old man's league out there and looking for a point guard, give Ross a call. Right, man. Give him a call. I bet he's still got it. That's so fun. Well, Chris, I mean, it was a formative place for us. Taylor University still holds a special place in our hearts. I like to call it the greatest place on earth. I don't know how you think of it, but I'm glad it brought us together so that we could do this podcast today. Absolutely. Yeah. Super fun. Before we dive in, I also think it's great for people to hear that you were around from the very beginning of Denver Institute, and you were a founding board member, or at least you were on the board in the very beginning. I don't know how you would frame this, but I'd love for you to just reflect a bit on, what's been your vantage point on Denver Institute? Why is it a good thing? What are you excited about? Why do you continue to be supportive of it and engaged in it? Yeah, I love Denver Institute. And when I first heard the concept, I was instantly ready to get involved and start giving. So Jeff Hainan approached me and asked if I would serve on the board. And it was, at that point, just a concept. But I was like, this is needed. It's important. I think that as we think about our work, I mean, this is where we spend so much of our lives. And so much of our lives, we need to be examining through the lens of how does our faith inform that? And it's not a place we just go to check out of our faith. It's a place that it's informed by kind of who we are. So I felt like it was really important for the church in Colorado to be thinking about this topic and to be investing in research and conversation and formation
related to it. So it was an easy yes. I think we've been giving like every month to Denver Institute since day one, and could continue to, because we love the work that you all are doing. So happy to be a part of it in a small way, and so glad that I was asked to be on the board.
Yeah, well, your support long-term and encouragement and the way you've engaged has been really meaningful as well. And, you've had a career change over the last 3 years, and I really want to focus on the last 3 years mostly, but I think helpful context for people listening in is to just understand kind of where you came from and how you moved into what you're doing now.
Yeah.
And we'll ask you questions about that once you help us think about that. But, share a little bit too, like you've spent a lot of time really invested in what you were doing before. You wrote about it. You did it for a long time. You did it really well. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, thanks, Ross. So I graduated from Taylor, like you mentioned, 20 years ago. In the first 17 years, from 2 weeks after finishing at Taylor, for then 17 years, I worked in an amazing organization called Hope International. And I think I was staff member number 5 there, and was a part of an incredible journey. Hope does amazing work all around the world, helping invest in dreams of men and women as they start small businesses, and partnering with the local church in the advancement of God's good love in the world. And loved that work, and was involved, again, from like right out of college until 3 years ago. And during that time, saw Hope expand to thousands of employees working in 20 plus countries around the world, and a $35 million a year budget, and was loving the work there, but had spent 17 years sort of developing and investing in a team, and had team members that were ready to take on more responsibility. I also sensed, it was actually at a silent retreat probably about 5 years ago, that I was needing to step into a season where I was traveling less and spending more time locally. We have 4 kids. My wife, Allie, and I have 4 kids under the age of 15. And so was looking for a role where I would maybe do a little less travel. And Allie's business, Matchstick, she runs a recruiting company, and it was really starting to grow. And I wanted to give her the space and freedom to kind of lead that business. So yeah, ended up taking a step out of Hope. It was a kind of a long off ramp, and ended up, seeing some of the team members that I had managed step into more leadership at Hope, and they're doing even better than I was doing in the role. And I'm so happy to see them flourish and see Hope continue to grow and do great. And that was when I started looking, and ended up finding a long-time business in Denver. It's been around for 56 years that my friend had bought, Luke. He and his wife bought the business about 3.5 years ago. And so joined him about 3 years ago, and here we are.
Oh man, that is a cool journey, man. And let's just pause, and I mean, it should be reflected on that you took time to ask those questions, and you were willing to take kind of I would call it like just a step of faith or a risk, kind of jumping into the unknown of like what would be next after what you've done for 17 years. That's a big jump, man. Well, let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now at EMJD. First, it's precision fabrication. What's EMJD, and what's precision fabrication?
Yeah, well, we are we're a manufacturing company based in Colorado, 22 employees, and we make all sorts of stuff out of sheet metal. Sheet metal is everywhere in the world. If you look around the places where you're listening to this podcast right now, you'll see sheet metal parts. They're in your car, they're in your office, they're underneath your table, they're in your light fixtures, they are in campers and car wash equipment and everything in between. So we make parts out of sheet metal. So sheet metal arrives on big trucks to our shop, and then we cut it to shapes, and then we bend it and weld it, and then we put it on pallets and we ship it out. So we are making things from kind of flat sheet, anywhere from really, really thin material up to 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch thick steel plates that we're fabricating into all sorts of things that go into all sorts of environments.
Okay, that is awesome. So basically what you're saying is everything around us is impacted by the work that metal fabricators are doing around the country. You guys are doing it here in Colorado, and help us like connect the dots a little bit between you were doing something that was maybe easier for you to say, hey, I see how meaningful this is in the world, what you were doing at Hope, helping people launch businesses around the world. And now you're like, you joined one, and you have employees who are working at this manufacturing operation. And like, what is it totally different to you in your mind? Are there overlaps? Do you feel something different inside when you show up at work? Is it the same? Like, help us unpack kind of that transition and how you've thought through that and saying, yeah, I want to go do that.
I really wanted to jump into something completely different when I transitioned out of Hope and ended up here. And on paper, it's like, how in the world could you go from kind of in this amazing global organization serving in places like Haiti and Congo and, Ukraine to working in a little manufacturing company? But for me, that was kind of part of the design. I wanted for this sort of second chapter of my career to do something completely different. And frankly, I definitely came into this role with some unspoken arrogance that jumping into a company of 22 employees under one roof was going to be pretty easy. Again, I never said that out loud, but it's like we're working with thousands of employees across 20 countries and launching financial institutions in the most difficult places in the world. Like running a small business in one location with 20 employees, it's going to be easy. And it has been really fun in how challenging it has been. So that's been a surprise in the whole journey. But yeah, I was kind of looking for something totally different. And frankly, when I got involved at the Denver Institute for Faith and Work, I was telling stories about our donors and our clients to Hope who really embodied in bringing their faith to work, creating amazing businesses, growing amazing businesses in places like Rwanda and Colorado. And so I was always really excited about it. I came from a family of entrepreneurs and business owners. And so when I kind of took this step in, it was something I was excited about and definitely saw the connection in terms of the work we did at Hope and the work we do here at EMJD. But it has been far more challenging than I expected, for sure. Wow,
yeah, really cool to hear. Tell us something that you've learned about metal fabrication or manufacturing in general that, if you're not in that kind of work, you can't quite get it. You can't quite understand it.
Yeah. I mean, something I didn't understand before starting was just how little room for error there is. And when we are making products, we make a commitment to our customers that we're going to be holding tolerances to the blueprints that they give us by 10,000ths of an inch. So think of the thickness of a piece of cardstock. That's the margin for error that we have. So we recently made parts for a large RV manufacturer, and we just simple little brackets, and the brackets had holes that were about 1 millimeter too small. So they were just about 3,000ths of an inch off, and they couldn't use them. And so in many cases, everything else about the parts were right. The flanges were the right lengths, it was the right material, it was the right thickness, they were painted the right way. And, it's like a 99% out of 100, and that's still considered a failure because they couldn't use them. And so we had to recycle those 120 brackets and make 120 new ones because we didn't follow through on making the parts that we told them we would make. So that's a thing that I think, ultimately we all place our confidence in companies like EMJD when we jump in an airplane or a car, or we go through the car wash, or we, pull our chairs into a table. We just assume the stuff that we're using is made well and is going to hold us up. And companies like ours take on the responsibility of, with our customers, making sure that we're making things right. So that's something that's been really surprising, is just the little margin for error, and how a 95% in our industry is a failure most times. That's been something that's probably a bit different than I anticipated coming in.
Yeah, that's a really helpful vision for it. And, I'm glad the bar is high.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty stressful, I imagine, because I've actually gotten to go and see this place that you work at, and there's huge machines. And I just think all those parts have to be working exactly right, and the operator has to know exactly what to look for and get it exactly right. And there's many places where it could go wrong.
Right.
If you're thinking about 100% accuracy.
Right.
Yeah. So talk about that. How does that work? Do the machines just always work? Is this a constant maintenance thing? Is it, training people differently all the time? How do you lean into, okay, this is the bar, here's how we're going to actually try to meet the bar?
Well, everything that you shared, all the places where things can go wrong, things do go wrong and have. Over the last 3 years, I've seen operators make mistakes. I've seen machines not work correctly. I mean, it's crazy the amount of places where things can go wrong. We recently had a situation where two sheets of metal stuck together. And so then when we started laser cutting the sheets, and this was after hours, it was cutting through two sheets, ended up jamming up the machine. Both sheets were ruined. All that had to be thrown away. You can mess things up when we don't paint stuff here, but our paint shops can mess things up. I mean, there literally is like 100 ways that things can go wrong, and they have. So we, do our best on the front end to quote things to what we think it'll take and the difficulty. We try and get exceptions from our customers on things that we know are going to be problematic. And so we'll name for them the things that we know are going to be difficult for us to do. And so we communicate that up front and make sure that our customers know we're going to, commit to honoring our word and make things right if things go sideways. And most times things go well. So we ship out about 350 unique parts out of our doors every single month here. And about 99% of those parts never come back to our shop. So 99%-ish of the time, things are successful. And then there's about 1% of the time where, like I mentioned, the bracket's made wrong and we have to scrap it out and do it over. Hopefully we catch that stuff before it gets to our customers. That's where most of our errors are identified. But it's tricky. It's definitely a business where there's just not much room for error.
Yeah, well, that does seem like a big challenge. All right, we're learning a little bit about the operations. I want to switch a little bit more to how you're thinking about the people inside and how you frame this work in your mind. So I was just talking to a group of business leaders this week. And my challenge to them was to think about, they have kind of a section in their little group where they have to fill out a comprehensive, like, here's what my business does. And they have this little section that's called like faith initiatives or kingdom work or something like that. And it's sometimes hard to figure out what that means for the work they're doing. Mm-hmm. And what I challenged was like, actually, I don't think it's a little section of the business you're doing. I think it's the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And can be that way. So instead of thinking of like, oh, this business could be ministry if I do X, Y, and Z activities, or it's, all this is business as a mission, meaning like I'm just going to use it so we can share our faith or something. Kind of neglects the actual value that you just talked about, how you guys create really good value in the world, because we're literally seeing it around us right now as we sit here and talk. But to think of the whole thing as an opportunity for service for others, loving your neighbor, ministry in the sense of you're doing something on behalf of another for God's glory and honor. Talk to me a little bit about how you're seeing that show up in your everyday responsibilities. Like another way to frame it might be like, how does loving your neighbor actually happen inside EMJD?
Yeah. Well, big picture, like rewinding all the way out, we serve a really incredible God who has exhibited absolutely perfect craftsmanship. And so when we think about the planets being held in orbit, when we think about the oceans and the tides, we think about a baby being formed in a mother's womb, when we think about the harmony that we see in nature, and we go out and hike the mountains and see this like incredible world God has created, we believe that God's a craftsman, that he's designed this universe. It's marred, it's not perfect. Our ecosystems, though, they hold and sustain life. It's just unbelievable. And so ultimately, when we look around us, we know that if we're called as those that believe in God and follow God to embody him in the work that we do, then that should show up in all aspects of how we run our businesses. And this is not like a new concept to you and to the followers of Denver Institute, but it should inform not just a portion, like you said, of our business, but all of it, and how we treat our people, how we treat our vendors, how we pay our bills. It should affect, the products that we make, our return policies, how we handle really difficult customers and customers that have unrealistic expectations and customers that make accusations against us that aren't true. I mean, all of those things should be informed by who we are as followers of Christ. So, I believe that is so true to how we should run our business. And we have so much room for growth and improvement here. Lots of ways that we need to grow, as all of us do, towards a more full version of our business and our policies reflecting our creator. But I do think, like, as we think about leading EMJD, that's what grounds us. It grounds kind of all of our decision making and policies here at the company. So, yeah, I mean, most importantly, I think, and most saliently, is like how we treat our people. So that's the thing that kind of rises to the surface for me of, the work that we do. It starts with the people that work here, and so loving our neighbor begins with how we love our employees.
Thanks for listening. My name is Marcy McGovern, and I'm delighted to serve on the board of directors for Denver Institute. As a financial advisor, I have experienced and want others to experience the paradigm shift that happens when we see our everyday work as pleasing to God and as a way to love our neighbors. Programming like the Faith and Work podcast catalyzes this change, and we are just getting started. As Denver Institute pursues its mission to prepare people to serve God and others through their daily work, we look forward to seeing our workplaces and cities transformed. But that cannot happen without the support of our listeners. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard on the Faith and Work podcast, or if your life has been shaped by a Denver Institute event, the fellowship, a cohort, or our many publications, I encourage you to financially support this mission. Whether you join me as a monthly partner or give a one-time gift, your support helps workers, workplaces, and communities experience the hope and the life that Christ provides. Visit the Give page at denverinstitute.org. That's denverinstitute.org.
Well, that's incredibly well said. Thank you for sharing that. Maybe give us a couple examples, practically speaking then. Okay, if that's the motivation and the reasoning behind it and the big picture behind it, what does it look like for you guys to try to love your people? Like, what practically speaking, what does that mean?
Yeah. Well, I think of one of our team members who I'll call Jacob, but Jacob was someone who really struggled to find meaningful work before starting here at EMJD. He has some significant intellectual challenges that make a lot of jobs, a lot of the reading, writing, math required in a lot of jobs really difficult for him. And he came to us via a friend for an interview, and shared with us that he loves working with metal, and it's a hobby of his, and he loves working with his hands. And so we gave him a shot to work here, and it has been so fun to watch his journey. Over the last 9 months, he has just taken on more and more responsibility. He's reliable. He's so gifted, an incredible craftsman. And we're giving him more and more responsibility every month, giving him opportunities to learn new equipment, to learn new skills. He got a raise, he's got paid more. And we hope, and I have experienced, like, he is someone that has belonging here, and someone who really struggled to find that at work previously. Has a great family, great friendships, but really struggled to find belonging at work. And so that's who we're looking for. We're looking for people here that are really gifted craftsmen that are looking for a place of belonging. And so, that's one person who comes to mind. And there's like the policy side of things too. When we think about, we do profit sharing. We want our team members to know every quarter that if we're profitable, they're profitable. And as we experience benefit as the owners of the business, they're going to experience benefit too. Having good health insurance, having a 401k retirement matching program up to 6% of their paycheck. Like, those are all things that we've done to say, like, we want to invest in the people that show up here every single day. And, at Hope, our mission statement was to invest in the dreams of the men and women that we serve as we proclaim and live the gospel. And in many ways, I see that same mission here of investing in the dreams of the men and women that call EMJD their employer.
Oh, I love that, Chris. That's good. I think I remember seeing the dashboard that was like, here's where we are on our targets, and just keep it in front of people. Like, I think that's a wonderful thing. Certainly not every business owner is thinking about that, or leadership team. So that's incredible. Policy to just a place of belonging. So I'm just imagining the work that might happen daily if I was to be an employee of yours. I think I could feel like I maybe can see where I'm contributing to something good that's going to go get, this is going to be a part in a plane or wherever it's going to go, and it's going to do good stuff. But it's also going to feel a bit repetitive.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly isolated, even though there's a bunch of people around. I kind of have my space that I stay in mostly, it seemed like. Talk to me how you've tried to create that sense of belonging in sort of that repetitive, dangerous, potentially,
Yeah.
Like how have you built that?
Well, I think it starts with hiring people who are uniquely gifted and wired for this sort of work. And there have been times when we've hired folks over the last 3 years that just derive all their energy and joy from interacting with other people and diversity of tasks and doing different things every moment of every day. And they've wanted to work here, and we've wanted to hire them. And then 3 to 6 months in, we learn it's a square peg in a round hole. Like you really are wanting the type of work that will never exist here. So part of it is trying to overstate at the beginning, this is what this job looks like. It's kind of interesting, but like we have a shop full of introverts here. And that's just sort of the nature of who ends up really enjoying this work, where they can come and they're craftsman oriented, come and they work with their hands, and they love that. They love kind of getting in the zone, listening to their music and doing their work. And there's a certain profile of a job candidate that really loves working here. And then it's also just naming that up front in interviews. Like, I know you need a job, and I know you really want, a job as soon as possible, but this probably isn't a place where you're going to do well. Like, you probably are going to hate coming to work, and that's not good for you or for us. So that's part of it, is like at the front end, when I'm doing interviews or walking candidates around the shop, I'm pointing out like our team members, introducing them to them, and just sort of illustrating this is what the day looks like. Like, if you like working with an orbital sander and you like working with power tools, and you're okay with it being kind of loud and dirty and dusty, and you're being like, and you love listening to your speaker and having good music, like you're gonna love it here, because that's every day for most of the folks in the shop. But if that's not who you are, then like I don't want to do you the disservice of giving you a job offer, because this is not a place you're going to enjoy.
Well, that's really good to hear, and you're basically trying to show love by just being honest.
Yeah.
And the real experience of what that looks like, and you've also, it sounds like you guys have done the hard work, or learned the hard way, maybe, just like what kind of person is going to fit, and have a good experience working there. Let's talk about people working in manufacturing generally. There's a lot of talk around like maybe there's not enough workers that want to do this kind of work. There's a lot of things said about AI. Like, kind of go up to the higher level of like what's going on in society and economics, and help us think about how that is impacting your everyday work in terms of, how is hiring going? Do we need more people who are excited about this kind of work? How's AI showing up in your space? Is it replacing all your big machines and now there's no people that need to be working there, or is it totally not doing that? What's been that experience?
It's an interesting moment where there's absolutely been an explosion of great technology coming into manufacturing, and yet we're still seeing the need for people growing, and there not being enough young leaders coming into the trades to be able to continue the work that we need in our companies. So it's both true that there's lots of automation here at our shop. I mean, we have lots of robotic automation in all of our major work centers, and increasing amounts of kind of technology and AI that's informing and shaping the work that we do. And we still need more people than we can hire. So we're seeing that across the trades, where there just aren't enough folks that are looking to get into this line of work versus what the needs are. So one of our favorite organizations is a group locally called Master's Apprentice. Master's Apprentice is a post-high school program for young adults looking to make a shift into a career in the trades. And so it's a 6-week paid program where they get exposed to a bunch of different industries, plumbing and HVAC and electrical and fabrication. And we have a group coming just next week on a tour, And so we've hired 3 of our team members are graduates of that program. And we're training them. They're totally green. They're coming from restaurants, retail, work that they think they will enjoy kind of working with their hands, but haven't yet tried it. So we've had a great partnership with them. We also are a second chance employer. So we have folks that have come through the justice system that we've given a second chance here at EMJD. So those are 2 of the primary ways that we're finding job candidates, and would encourage young people that are kind of exploring, and parents that have young people, kids that are graduating high school, to really give like a long look at a career in the trades, because I do think it is a really durable industry if you kind of group it all together. And there's lots of job opportunities, not just on the shop floor, but when we think about the team members that are going to scale with us over time, they're going to be able to grow into all sorts of different roles here or companies like EMJD. They can learn the ability to become welders. They can get trained to be a press brake operator, to operate the lasers. So really high-end, like sophisticated equipment, and even then make a journey into being supervisors and getting into estimating and getting into front office work. So lots of opportunities from there, but there are tons of needs for great young leaders to explore a career in the trades.
That's really cool here. Okay, so I want to stay on this for a second. So you said you had 4 kids under 15.
Yeah.
15 under. And I'm curious, like, has the last 3 years working at EMJD changed your feelings or thought process? I don't know if you're a feeler or a thinker, so I'm asking both, Chris, around like, what if one of those kids came to you and said, hey, I would like to go into the trades, maybe that wasn't the original vision. We've kind of been told, well, they should go through college and get a job after college and maybe go get a master's degree. And that becomes a trajectory that seems like a normal thing in some spaces. Well, what if one of your kids said, I don't want to do that. I'm ready to just jump into the trades. How would you feel, and how do you think about that? Is it different?
Well, I would be for sure open to that path for each of my kids. I don't think it's an either or. I would encourage, and I hope that each of my kids pursues college and pursues what they're uniquely gifted to do. And I think business ownership and working in the trades and manufacturing are careers that have a long shelf life in an increasingly automated and digital world. So I will and have encouraged them to think about making things and to consider starting their own business or buying a business. But I think that combination, if you can and you're passionate about and capable of going to college, I'm not anti-college. I'm very pro-college. And I think this sort of path on the other side would be great for them. But if they, are wired to work with their hands, and that this is what they want to do, and they want to grow, through kind of coming and working in a business like EMJD, I would encourage them and cheer them on in that journey. I think about several of our 19 and 20-year-olds working here are living at home. They're making, $50,000 a year. They are starting towards their 401k. They've got health insurance and they have no debt. And so for a lot of young people, like that's a really attractive path. They're also working towards, through EMJD, working towards getting a journeyman license, which they can then parlay that into an associate's degree. So there are a bunch of different paths. Like that's the sort of come to work and kind of get your schooling as you go. Get your education as you go, and you learn and develop both on the job and virtually, or in-person community college. But then there's also a path of going to college first and then coming into an organization or a company like EMJD. So definitely, I think lots of different ways. I hope that's not a cop-out, but I'd say I'm fully supportive of this space for young people to pursue. And I also really value the importance of college.
That's a great answer, Chris. Yeah, wonderful. Okay, a couple last questions. One of the things we talk about at Denver Institute a lot is how our work is forming us, meaning like how is this shaping us? What kind of human being is this making me? And for us, it would be, is this work that I'm doing contributing to me being more like Christ, or in some way not? So I just would love for you to reflect on that, as you're doing this work at EMJD, thinking about manufacturing and metal fabrication, like what's the best version of how manufacturing work or trades work actually is forming someone to be more like Jesus? And then the opposite end of it would be, what are the dangers or the temptations that are inherent in the work that might be deforming?
Well, I'll start by saying that, I 22 employees here. I'm in the office most days for most of my work hours. And so the shop team calls me like an office boy, right? So, if I come out, that's kind of the loving jab is like, oh boy, the office boy is here. And, one of the things I've kind of learned through 3 years of being here is just a higher sense of compassion for how difficult life is for many of our neighbors. And I think in a lot of ways I was isolated from that. I thought about it in terms of like men and women living in Haiti and living in Congo. But in terms of like the daily struggle for most of our neighbors in our communities right here was something that I didn't experience perhaps as fully as I do now when I walk the shop and talk to our team members who are struggling with rent payments, struggling with really, really difficult family situations, trying to put food on the table, not just for themselves, but for their like little siblings or their nephews or nieces that aren't in environments that are safe, dealing with addictions, dealing with trying to come out of the justice system and find housing, like all of those things that felt like they were just at an arm's length that I would read about are now like, these are people I know and these are people I like and work with, and I'm experiencing this stuff with them every single day. So it's increased my compassion. I think at our best, organizations, companies like EMJD are helping people experience the dignity of work, that this is not like second class work because you don't have a laptop. I mean, most of our employees, 16 of the 22, don't even have access to a computer at work. And I think there are many of us like me that spend a lot of our days at our desk, at our laptops, at our computers, at coffee shops and co-working spaces. And we can kind of potentially, fall victim to thinking that the sort of work that's done here by the team in the shop is less dignifying than the work that we do. And being here, I think we're trying to just recognize the incredible craftsmanship that I have a graduate degree, and yet it would require years and years of training for me to be able to do the work that my colleagues are doing just outside my door. And so I tell them that all the time. It's like, this is unbelievable. Like the artistry, the incredible skill and craftsmanship, the ability to read blueprints and understand tolerances and bend deductions and material thickness and how materials react to different processes. Like I literally have like learned 10% of what most of my coworkers in the shop floor know in terms of the work that we do. And so that to me is like what we're trying to lean into here is just recognizing the incredible skill, the incredible craftsmanship, and the dignity of our team here, and that we are in this together, and I have a role to play, and they have a role to play, and together, hopefully we can really have a lot of success. But it is I need them and they need me, and we're a team together. So that's the thing where that's kind of where I land, Ross, on that question.
No, that was a wonderful answer, Chris. Well, I just appreciate your humility, your thoughtfulness, the vision that you carry into your workplace and in your whole life, really. And it's an integrated life. That's what we're after. So thank you for sharing how you're doing that at work. And I think it's awesome. Last word goes to you, Chris. What's a final word of encouragement or challenge or even a question that you'd want to leave listeners with who are wrestling with this question of what does it look like to integrate my faith in my everyday tasks and responsibilities?
Well, I think one thing I've loved about being here for the last 3 years is the number of people from my community and family and former work at Hope who I've been able to take on a tour through the shop. And I think for many of your listeners and for folks that are listening to podcasts in general, there are companies like EMJD that will gladly show you around. And for our kids to experience how things are made, and whether it's an HVAC company or a plumbing company or a company like EMJD or a woodworker, like a furniture maker, demolition company, I mean, take the time if you can to go knock on a door, ask a friend if you can come by or bring your kids by to see this sort of work. I think it increases your appreciation for how difficult stuff is to make and how much we all depend on it. and also maybe opens up the eyes of, of yourself and your family to other opportunities there might be for work in the future. That's just, random idea, but encouragement to anyone listening. Certainly willing to host anyone here. Ross can connect you to me if you're interested in coming by EMJD. We love having groups come through and can show you how we do sheet metal. So it'd be fun to have anyone that wants to stop by.
I love that challenge. That's great. Go see the work. Go get in a workplace. Learn something different. So, Chris, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time out of your workday to join us on the Faith and Work podcast. This was an incredible conversation. If you're listening in, I just want to point you to a couple things. One is that Chris is an author. He's written 4 books. I'm going to tell you about 2 of them that I would recommend to you. Actually, I'd recommend all of them to you, but 2 that you should definitely check out. One is called Mission Drift: The Unspoken Crisis Facing Leaders, Charities, and Churches. And then Rooting for Rivals, which is all about collaboration and generosity towards one another. We are big fans of both of these books at Denver Institute. They've been helpful on my leadership journey, and they will be for you as well. And one of the takeaways that I had from today was simply just connecting the thing that you do every day to something about who God is or what God cares about might increase your energy and motivation and your imagination around how you're integrating your faith and your work. Look for those opportunities and don't just see parts of what you do as something that God cares about, or if you do certain kinds of activities like share your faith or give your funds to something meaningful like a nonprofit. Those are important and good, but there's a lot more that you can explore, and that's what we hope you take away from this series, Voices from the Workplace. Thanks for listening to the Faith and Work podcast.
If you've enjoyed this episode of the Faith and Work podcast, please subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend. The Faith and Work podcast is produced by Denver Institute. We believe that when Christians work faithfully, the world will taste the hope and life that Jesus provides. To learn more or to make a financial contribution, visit denverinstitute.org.